Hi, this is Olawale Oluwade, and I want to speak briefly on what I've titled The Key Campaign Issues for 2027. The key campaign issues for that should shape 2027 general elections. So, in my view, there are five strategic issues that encapsulate, that must encapsulate the broader campaign agenda for 2027 general elections, and I want to deal with this here. But before I get into that, first, I need to speak briefly also on the types of leaders Nigeria needs at this juncture in our 65 years of history. The kinds of leaders we need. There are five basic fitness tests these leaders must pass. And when I mean leaders, I'm not just talking about president, I'm talking about from the ground up. Local government chairmen in all of our 774 local governments, 36 state governors, and then of course the president. And the senators, 109 senators, 360 House of Rep members, and all the houses of assembly members in all the states. The qualities they must possess, the five basic fitness tests each of these leaders must have. Number one test is the moral fitness. Our leaders must pass a moral fitness test. Number two, intellectual fitness. So, to govern requires a lot of intellectual heft. Governance is not child's play, and that's why Nigeria is a backward, highly underdeveloped society, because most of those who have governed this country were largely unprepared, and those even who were prepared were morally challenged. They had serious moral baggage. So, but essentially, governance requires a lot of intellectual power. To build a home, architects go to school 7-8 years to become an architect. Building engineers go to school 6-7 years. Medical doctors. So, to build a nation requires a lot of mental capacity. The third test, psychological fitness test. We must know that those who are going to lead this country are not those who have mental problems. Because, for instance, someone who gets into office and steals the money that is budgeted or earmarked for provision of healthcare or education for children, and then steals this money to build a mansion where he can only sleep on a bed in a corner of a room, such a person has, mental problems. Most of our leaders, obviously, from what we've seen, apparently have, some serious level of mental psychosis. Number four, physical fitness. To govern, leadership or governance, is demanding, is Herculean, it is tasking. So it demands a lot of energy, vigor, vitality. You have to have meetings upon meetings upon meetings, stretching far into the night. You can't be someone who is unfit physically, who cannot stand the rigors or the demands of office, And then finally, number five, social cultural fitness. Anybody who's aspiring for leadership must pass a social-cultural fitness test, meaning you cannot be, a bigot, either tribal bigot, religious bigot, ethnic bigot. We do not want someone who says we and them or them and us. We're a nation. We're a community of people in a multi-religious, multi-ethnic, multi-racial, multi-religious society. We cannot have anyone who harbors any sort of bigotry leading any part of Nigeria. Now, getting right into the meat of what I want to talk about, the five key campaign issues I think should shape conversation as we go into 2027 elections. Now, I'm not naive. I know in this part of the world, even voters, even some of you viewers are not interested in this. We are only interested in the bags of rice and the money potential candidates or aspirants can give out, and that's why we'll continue to circle around, this wilderness of underdevelopment, poverty and misery and insecurity, because we keep putting people who have absolutely next to nothing, who know absolutely next to nothing about what leadership or governance entails. So, the first campaign issue that should shape 2027 is moral rebirth. Moral rebirth. Nigeria has since arrived at the social condition described by social scientist Emile Durkheim, that where he described what he describes as anomy, that is the state of lawlessness or anarchy. Nigeria has since long arrived at that juncture. I mean, the country is bursting at the seams with all sorts of insecurity, problems or challenges, and massacres and ransacking of villages and entire communities. People are being kidnapped in hundreds, and all of that. And the state seems to be helpless in the face of this onslaught from criminal underworld. So there is therefore an urgent necessity for a total moral rebirth. To believe that any progress is possible in the current social milieu is sheer insanity. Consequently, anyone wishing to aspire for the following offices: president, governor, local government chairman, House of Rep members, senator, state House of Assembly, must voluntarily commit to the following. Number one, to declare their assets publicly. Second, to mandate all their appointees to do same. Number three, to wage a transparent, efficient, and relentless war against corruption in government finances, that is, appropriations and procurement. Number four, criminal justice reforms, which includes, number one, establishment of special courts to try terrorism, kidnappings, banditry, etc. This insane idea of repentant terrorists and bandits and all of that is sheer madness that has got to stop. Second, under justice reforms, we need to have closer monitoring and evaluation of judicial officers, judges of all levels, and even lawyers. Lawyers who are found to have compromised, trying to procure judges through corrupt means should be disbarred and prosecuted and jailed. Judges who render judgments that are corrupt must be stripped of judicial immunity and sentenced. We need to weed out bad eggs from our criminal justice system. But I'll speak more on this in subsequent episodes. So that's the first one, a moral rebirth. If we do this in our government, if the people at the helms of our government architecture, have this driving their government, their administration, the rest of society will take a cue. But of course, when the head is rotten, because the fish begins to rot from the head, and when the head is rotten, the rest of the body. So society has collapsed because those in power are, corrupt, endemically in some cases corrupt, beyond redemption. I might add. Now, the second issue that should drive the campaigns in 2027 is what I've titled the development of a 50-year national integrated economic development master plan. The development of a 50 years national integrated economic development master plan. And I stress the word integrated. Horizontal, vertical integration, meaning it must be integrated this master plan must be integrated between the federal, the state, and the local governments, and even the wards. We need to have a holistic, development master plan that encompasses the different tiers of governance architecture, the wards, the local governments, and then the states and the federal. Not everybody pulling in different directions. Then we need to have horizontal. So vertical integration and horizontal integration, meaning every sphere of economic endeavor, activities, every economic sector must be integrated into one single economic development master plan for Nigeria. What we have now will not go anywhere. It will not take us anywhere. We will never develop. We will never make any appreciable progress because everybody is pulling in different directions. It's just like a human body. If the arm says I'm going this way, and the leg says I'm going this way, and the head says I'm going this way, of course, that's dismemberment, and that's exactly what is going on in Nigeria. Now, here are the following outlines of what this master plan should look like. So, this master plan would outline our collective, number one thing you see in this document is our collective vision, mission, and strategic objectives. If I ask any Nigerian, even myself, what's our vision as a Nigerian? I don't know, even though we have a national anthem or we have a national pledge, that is not what a vision is. A vision is simple, straightforward. Any child, any 5-year-old, 6-year-old in kindergarten or primary school should be able to recite what a national vision is. So this document would outline our vision, mission, and strategic objectives. Number two, it will also establish and enunciate the philosophical ideals that underpins the master plan itself. And some of this, in my own view, should include A, that will leave no one behind. In Nigeria today, we have about 20 million out-of-school children that has been left behind. And guess what? We keep talking about this 18, 20 million out of school children. Most of these have become adults, even though we have more. As some are living that bracket, many more millions are getting sucked into it, and it's a vortex. It's a scary vortex, that sucks these children, and that's where you have this recruitment, base for criminal elements and all of that. And then those who have become adults just get, graduated into a life of crime and criminality. So we leave no one behind. That's a philosophical ideal that underpins a national master plan. The second is that the sum of all the parts is far greater than each part. So we must see, this document must see Nigeria as a whole. It must see the entirety of Nigeria as one entity, one economic entity, not the North. All this idea about this part or that part and all of that must end. So the sum of all the parts is far greater than the individual parts. Number three, ideal underpinning this document is that the nation's commonwealth and resources are harnessed and deployed in the service of everyone. What we have now, what we have had for decades in Nigeria, is that the nation's wealth and resources have been criminally captured, misappropriated, by a few, a tiny set of individuals, elites, criminal elites, have captured, state capture, and they've deployed, criminally amassed the wealth of Nigeria for themselves. That's what has happened. So, going forward, if we implement what I'm saying here, this document has a philosophical ideal that the wealth and resources of Nigeria must be deployed for all, for the use of all. And then number four, that every crime or misconduct shall be fully accounted for. The era when people commit atrocities, heinous crimes, or even misconducts or misdemeanors and get away with it must end. And then finally, that no one is above the law. So under number two campaign issues that we have in national, whoever comes to say I want to be this must believe in this national integrated economic development master plan and must believe in all of this. That is my own thinking. Number three issue that should form the campaign issue, drive the campaigns for 2027 are the strategic objectives. What are our strategic objectives from 2027 going forward? A, that we guarantee universal basic education to all Nigerian child of school-going age. That we guarantee, as of right, that every Nigerian child that is born in Nigeria is guaranteed universal basic education, that is primary and secondary school, education. That also we guarantee primary health care to all mothers and children, not infants, children. That is any child from 16, 17, under are guaranteed primary health care. Mothers and child are guaranteed that. And also we must guarantee food security. We must guarantee decent accommodation for 46 million households that we have. And finally, we must also guarantee internal security. So this season of anomy, this lawlessness and state of anarchy has got to end. Whoever is campaigning for president or governor or local government must commit to guaranteeing these 5 basic human rights. And then second, under our strategic objectives, to vigorously pursue and attain economic self-sufficiency through the demarcation of Nigeria into special economic zones, 8 special economic zones. And each of these economic zones targeting different economic sectors. Each of these zones will be further broken down or delineated into different economic sectors. And each of these zones will also have economic clusters, where there will be production of specific consumer products and or services, to reverse our status as an import-dependent nation. And then third, rapid industrialization in the manufacturing of consumer products. Like I said, each of the economic zones will be further divided into clusters. There will be clusters in all, each of these zones where economic activities will be going on for specific consumer products. Now, some of these will include drugs and pharmaceuticals. We're spending billions of dollars importing drugs and pharmaceuticals from India, from China. That's what we do in Nigeria. We would also produce fashion clothes and fashion accessories, furniture and related products, household electronics appliances, electronics goods and services, furniture and the rest, and then also spares and accessories, and also technology innovation, and importantly, become a net global producer of highly skilled human resource through the national merit-based tertiary education system. So I would stop here today, and then I'll continue in the second part with poverty eradication, and then how we will resolve our power debacle, and also improving on our crude oil sector. Thank you for listening, and bye for now.